Welcome back to another Twinspires video preview on the road to the Kentucky Derby. Our stop this week, the Curlin, Florida Derby at Gulfstream Park. Nick Tammaro here, joined by James Scully. We're going to be looking at this running of the Florida Derby, which will take place on Saturday afternoon at about 6:40 Eastern time. James, this has been one of the more productive spots on the road to Louisville.
It has since 2013. In the last 10 runnings, 3 Kentucky Derby winners have come from the Florida Derby. 2 of them were based in South Florida, Orb in 2013 and Always Dreamin' in 2017. And Nyquist in 2016 shipped in to pilfer $1 million bonus. And so that gives that race 3 winners the last 10 years. Pretty good rate, Nick.
No doubt about it. And Todd Pletcher, of course, has won 6 Florida Derbies. He'll have the heavy favorite bidding for a 7th, and Forte could certainly take a new spot atop the equine leaderboard on the road to the Kentucky Derby. Forte coming in, obviously, as the main contender. Let's start with him, James. He is a heavy morning line favorite. There was a little chatter after the draw last Saturday that he drew the 11 post. First and foremost, is the post a concern for you?
It is a little bit of a concern. The thing I got to give the racing director Gulfstream a lot of credit for hustling 12 horses. Now, granted, it's a very soft group. A lot of them are in the field, but this race could have easily come up with 6 or 7 due to Forte's presence. But working out a trip from post 11, those outside posts at 1.125 races, 10 and out, have a very low win rate, Nick. So he could theoretically get caught in a little traffic. Looks like there's a little bit of speed signed on. And he'll have to work out a trip, but it's also very easy to envision, I think, him just rolling past these horses on the far turn and in the stretch.
Yeah, and the second question, of course, is can he lose? I mean, it looks to me like a fait accompli that he wins this race.
No, I mean, I would be surprised. I mean, not even mildly surprised, greatly surprised if he lost. I think he's facing, like I said, I mean, we'll get into it, but one of the things about this is 11 challengers in here is I think his main rivals on the morning line are, I can poke holes in all of them. I don't think it's a tough group, so I'd be disappointed if he lost. One thing about Forte, his Breeders' Cup Juvenile wasn't the fastest juvenile, but at least his last 2 races are his best races coming into this, and none of his rivals in here have run very fast as well.
Yeah, I think you touch on a key topic with a lot of these super talented 2-year-olds. What we want to see is them come back at 3 and look like they've taken a step forward. I don't know if we saw that he took a step forward, but we saw that he's at least as good as he was last year. And in this crop, using that context, that's about all you need.
That's for sure. I mean, we really haven't seen, I use the Bristnet speed ratings, but we have not seen many triple-digit performers this year. That's a contrast to years past. And, Forte is one of those few horses. He got a triple-digit number winning the Fountain of Youth. It wasn't a big number, but just doing so is, flatters him considering how fast his rivals are running.
Couldn't agree more. Let's go to one of the major contenders drawn towards the inside. That's the 4 Mage, a third-time starter from the barn of Gustavo Delgado, who won on debut and then came back and was 5-1 in the Fountain of Youth. James, I don't think he embarrassed himself. I think this is a horse that they've really thrown into the deep end of the pool now a couple of times in a row. But what I do like is that Luis Saez is getting on. He has an inside post. I think their intentions are pretty clear. They're going to the lead, and they're probably going to play catch me if you can.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people expected to see Mage, I did at least, on the lead in the Fountain of Youth off of that wire-to-wire maiden win, but he broke a little bit slowly, hit the gate, and Castellano was more than content to just stalk up close that day. You're right. It looks like that the game plan is different in here. He drew inside, jockey switch, and would expect to see him hustling. He's going to have to keep moving forward off of that effort, Nick, but definitely a contender based upon his first 2 races.
Not often.
Or contender for at least second, and that's sort of the gauge I'm looking at it through.
Well, that's the ceiling for a lot of these horses, unfortunately. Not often you see a horse rerouted from the Sunland Derby to the Florida Derby, but that's the case with number 10, Fort Bragg, who's the second choice on the morning line. He comes in off a little bit of a dull run in the San Felipe, but lures Joel Rosario for his second start now off a layoff. Is this one of the prime contenders to you to potentially upset Forte?
He's not. And, Fort Bragg is still a horse, Nick, that I think could get it together down the road in his career. But he's a horse looked like he had some talent, but he was real rank and green in his first three starts, I thought. And then his last two races in just State's company have not been encouraging. I don't think he's got I don't think he has things moving in the right direction presently. And shipping to the East Coast and drawing post 10 in the Florida Derby, not a favorable scenario in my estimation.
I'm looking to see what kind of gauge he gives us on that San Felipe. He had a wide trip. I thought maybe being inside could have been a little beneficial that day. Cyclone Mischief is a horse who was ridden differently in the Fountain of Youth, and it led to an improved performance. I'm just wondering if we've seen his ceiling and if it's not quite good enough. Any chance to you of Cyclone Mischief taking a step forward?
No, I don't think he's going to make the lead from post 9. He went 24 last time and 47-3. And, I give him credit for improved showing, but I still think one turn distances are his best. He can get a mile and a 16th in the right scenario, but I think he's up against it stretching out to a mile and an eighth from an outside post today on Saturday.
I agree completely. You had one more you wanted to mention as a potential long shot player, the 2 West Coast Cowboy.
That's correct. West Coast Cowboy is a horse that when he broke his maiden last year in mid-September at Gulfstream at first asking, it wasn't a fast race. Came back and ran fourth in a decent allowance, I thought, in late November. And it was just a faster race number-wise. And then really, I thought, stepped up with a solid showing in the Holy Bull to grab third, 58-1. But one thing about it is his numbers have increased in all three starts. He's got a profile where he's improving in my eyes, and he's kind of horse that could sit mid-pack, save ground, and make a little bit of run, or maybe just off the second or third flight, make a little run, and potentially challenge for the exacta or trifecta at long odds with Sonny Leon, West Coast Cowboy.
Sometimes the best ways to approach these races with a prohibitive favorite is to try and find a price underneath. So I love the line of thinking. James, anybody else for the Florida Derby?
It's a little bit interesting with this Jungfrau being in there. I mean, not much to go on. Never finished first, but his best race did go at Gulfstream. And I just it's peculiar to see Mott running him back in this race, but I just thought that was a little bit of an interesting entry. Not really, though, Nick. A lot of the other ones that are double digits on the morning line, I think definitely need an easier spot to be competitive.
Yeah, Jungfrau with a lot of trouble around the first turn of the Withers and didn't do much running after that. He'd have to improve, obviously, but looks like a horse that'll at least be plugging along maybe for a slice of it down the stretch. James, thanks so much.
I thought it's encouraging. He would need to be training well in my eyes to run in here for Bill Mott to take a shot. I could see some of these other trainers taking a shot. So I just thought that was a little interesting.
No doubt about it. Well, that's a good look at the Florida Derby. Big thanks to you, James. Good luck.
All right. Same to you, Nick.
And to everybody out there, be sure you're playing along at twinspires.com. We got a lot of promotions associated with the lead up to the Derby. We have a new wager feature as well, the Power Box, available at twinspires.com. Make sure that you are taking advantage of everything going on there. We'll see you again soon. Until next time, best of luck.